Well, we now know it's going to be number one versus number two, Georgia and Tennessee. A big time fight. The last time there was a one versus two, it was LSU, Alabama in the regular season. And I believe the last time before that was also LSU, Alabama earlier in this decade, if what I read from the Associated Press is correct. So these are about once every 5 years, maybe once a decade events in the regular season. And, I don't know. Ohio State and Tennessee are co number twos. I'm not. Georgia is at the one, but I think we all know the winner of Georgia Tennessee will be ranked number one for sure after the this game concludes on Saturday night at twilight, whenever that is, 7:30. Whenever it is. This game has always been a really tough fight between the two schools in Athens and in Knoxville too. But just all the time, it's a really great game. It's a really big game, and now we know it will be number one versus two. Make sure that you're checking out our offer. We got an exclusive event with Kelee Ringo. He will be there uh, at Red Zone in Athens on November 20th. That's a Sunday, and it's going to be kind of at about 6 o'clock or so. We've got to nail that part down, but you will get the book and you will get something signed by Keely that you can either bring or you can get the book signed. Um, that's all included in the cost. So be sure. The big thing here is this is an extremely limited event. We're talking about dozens of people. I don't know when this is going to sell out. Uh, but I would not wait around because just like the magazine, if you remember the Brock Bowers magazine, I told y'all when it was gone, it was gone. And when it was gone, it was gone. I don't have any left. So this is going to be the same sort of thing. Take advantage while you can right now. Um, I just, that Georgia's going to be favored in this game. That's sort of getting settled down right now. It's moving around 9-10. So still a pretty heavy favorite, Georgia. But we've, when you look at the rankings, I think they're about right. I don't think that you can. I mean, I think you can make the case for three teams being ranked number one. I think to some degree you can make the case for four teams with Michigan, excuse me, being ranked number one. We go by the AP poll. We always have. If this were the coaches poll, you would not have one versus two. You would have one versus three. So the poll was Georgia at one, Ohio State at two, Tennessee at two as well. Tennessee had 18 first place votes. The Vols had 15. So Tennessee had more. I just want to say real quick, the AP put Tennessee below Ohio State, and it would seem to me if they were literally tied, that the team with the most first place votes should be listed above, but whatever. Michigan is at the four, Clemson five, Alabama at six, still in front of undefeated Texas Christian. Oregon at eight, they continue to throttle people. SC and UCLA, our friends in Los Angeles, are right there together. Ole Miss with a recovery game this past weekend at Texas A&M. Texas A&M seems to be a great team to recover against. The Utes are at 12. Kansas State absolutely throttled Oklahoma State. They're at 13. The Fighting Illini are at 14, one of the best defenses in the country. LSU, Alabama will be number 6 versus number 15 when that game kicks off at Tiger Stadium at night. Penn State is 16. North Carolina at 17, at 7-1. North Carolina. Oklahoma State, we talked about earlier. The Green Wave of Tulane are at 19. Wake Forest at 20. NC State at 21. Syracuse getting really beat bad by Notre Dame. Liberty, the Flames at 23. Oregon State 24. And UCF, the 2017 national champion UCF Golden Knights, are checking in at number 25. So, I don't have a lot to quabble with. I would probably have Clemson at 7 behind Alabama and Texas Christian, maybe at 8 behind Oregon as well. I think Clemson has been teetering for a while, but they never lose. So I don't know if these rankings are about what they look like or just, it's just like the Heisman vote. It's whatever that person's opinion is at that moment. So, I think generally speaking, the top 10 teams are the top 10 teams. The curious thing here is that the East may get decided on Saturday, probably. The West is not done. Alabama has not played Ole Miss, so just because Bama beats LSU, if that happens, they still are not done. LSU still has games to play in the West. They can take a pretty commanding lead. Their only loss in league play is to Tennessee, so if I'm not mistaken. So that's a really important game, but the West is not going to be won on Saturday outright, particularly if Alabama wins it. You got three teams with, that are at the top of the West with a loss. So in the East, Georgia, if they win their next two games, wins the SEC East. That's against Tennessee and Mississippi State. So Georgia needs to beat Tennessee and win another game. Tennessee still has, the amazing part about Georgia and Tennessee is, it's November 5th, and these guys have played one common opponent. One. That's it. That is amazing to me that we will have gone this deep into the season. And, like Tennessee's played Ball State, Pittsburgh, Akron, the Gators, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Martin, and Kentucky. Well, Georgia's only played Florida. That's it. And they beat them by 22. The Vols beat on neutral floor, a neutral field. The Vols beat the Gators by 5 at home. Tennessee's schedule, they still have half their SEC games to go. They got Georgia, they host Mizzou, they got to go to Carolina, and they will be the home team in Nashville against Vanderbilt. Georgia still, of course, has this game against the Vols, which is pretty epic for both sides, and then the game against at Mississippi State and at Kentucky. So this is the last conference game of the year for the Dogs, and at 1-2, there's just not a lot of showdowns like this, generally speaking. Uh, it is an astonishing moment in a regular season when this happens, because it's just not common for the two, 1-2, even in the playoffs. Think about when Georgia won this game. And this was not 1-2. This is 1-3. Okay, when Georgia and Bama played in the national championship in the 17 season, that was not 1-2. That was 3-4. So Georgia's been the 3 twice and has gotten to the national championship game both times. So this will be the 53rd ranking. Excuse me, this will be the 53rd edition of this game. The number 1 team has a slight edge of 29, 21, and 2. And lately, there's just not been as many of these. We have gotten them in the regular season, not very often. 2019, LSU beat Alabama. Number 1 LSU beat Alabama. In 2011, we had number 1 LSU going to Alabama and winning. I'm going to skip all the playoff ones because I would say 1-2 in the SEC championship game. The Gators lost that game to Alabama. 1-2 in 2008, the Gators were the 2 and they won that game in Atlanta. That was is the SEC championship the regular season? I'm not being smart. I'm kind of asking because, well, anyway. So I'm just scrolling back through here. 1-2, 1991, Florida State and Miami. The Canes, the number 2 team, won that 17-16. That was a wide right. 1989, Notre Dame at Michigan. Notre Dame, number 1, wins that game. Notre Dame, number 1 versus 2 SC. That was out in Los Angeles. Notre Dame won that game 27-10. And they're, 1-2, Miami and Oklahoma at the Orange Bowl. Number 2, Miami won that game at home. And then this is one, 1985. Iowa, Michigan. I actually remember people talking about that. I was 8. Iowa won that game 12-10. The last time Georgia played in a one versus two was the 1983 Sugar Bowl, a 27-23 loss to number 2 Penn State. So even Georgia, as the number 1 team, has not played in these very often. They are more often than not. Why do they not happen? Well, almost all the time. Uh, you don't. I mean, you just don't get two really good teams in one league. In this case, Georgia and Tennessee have proven that they're quite good. Uh, Everybody talks about the Tennessee, that the Tennessee win over Alabama is the best win in college football. Uh, I think there's a very real case to be made that Georgia's 46-point win over Oregon, essentially at home, is a better win. I mean, they won it by 46 points, and Oregon never had a chance to win that game, and Oregon is ranked 2 spots behind Alabama. So there, that we can have that talk too. We can talk about how Georgia beat the Gators more than the Vols do, but none of that's gonna matter. The Vols did, excuse me. None of that's gonna matter on Saturday in the afternoon when these two teams play one another. Again, this limited availability event with Kelee, we're going to run out of tickets. Okay, so get it now. The link is down below. This is going to be a monument. People will remember this game for a long time. The 2000 Georgia Tennessee game was a big deal. That was a night game. The game where Georgia beat LSU, beat top number 6 LSU on the road at Tiger Stadium, 28-27, if memory serves correct. They came back home and Tennessee dismantled them in 1998. I mean, that was a really good Tennessee team. They obviously won the national championship. They won that game 22-3, if memory serves correct. And then, from that point forward, 02 was a big game. I don't know if it was colossal. 04, Tennessee won that game. 06, Tennessee won that game. 08, they were both ranked, and then 10, you started getting to the point where Tennessee was just not good. 10, 12, 14. Um, you know, the games, though, are seemingly always close. I mean, even go back to the 12 team. Georgia was a way better team than Tennessee. That game was tight. The 14 game, I think Todd had to save them in that game. When you think about this, I mean, obviously in 16, Tennessee pulled off a miracle. In 18, that game was tighter, kind of than and then in 20, Tennessee got a good start to the game, but just got railroaded as time went on. I mean, Kirby with that very curious call to go for it at his own 30 something. I can't remember, but Tennessee pounded on. I mean, they got a touchdown off of a. There have been a lot of. I'll put it to you. There have been a lot of very odd Tennessee touchdowns, even in the last few times Georgia and Tennessee have played. Not in 18, but in 16 and in 20, there were some strange touchdowns for Georgia and for the Vols specifically. So maybe they got some mojo in Sanford Stadium. They've not won there since 2016. That's the only game they've won in Athens between the sixth game and today. So it's tough to win on the road in the SEC, and Tennessee's going to be right in the middle of that on Saturday.